Commander First Strike stood at the command bridge of the apex predator, his dark scales gleaming under the soft purple lights. His clawed hands clasped behind his back as he stared at the holographic display of the human space station. It hung in space like a shining wheel, slowly rotating against the backdrop of stars. "Status report," he growled, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the filtered air. "All systems ready for invasion, Commander," replied Officer Talon, checking the glowing screens in front of him. "Our scans show minimal defensive capabilities. These humans are surprisingly vulnerable." First Strike clicked his claws together, a habit he had developed over his many successful conquests. But something about this mission felt different. His species, the Hunters, had conquered 12 systems in the past cycle, yet none had been quite like this one. "Show me the intelligence reports again," he ordered, settling into his command chair. The screens lit up with images that still confused him. Humans, the supposed dominant species of this sector, living alongside beasts. Not just living, but sharing their homes, their food, and even their sleeping quarters with them. "Fascinating, isn't it, Commander?" Medical Officer Scale commented, stepping forward. "They keep predators in their homes. Our psychologists can't make sense of it. Are they hostages? Slaves? Weapons?" First Strike leaned forward, studying an image of a human child wrapped around a large, furry creature with sharp teeth. "They call this one a dog," he said, pointing with a claw. "Look at those fangs, those muscles, and they let their young embrace it." The bridge crew exchanged confused looks. Their own young were kept in protected chambers until they were strong enough to fight. The idea of allowing them near a beast was unthinkable. "Perhaps they'd broken their spirits," Officer Talon suggested. "Turned them into mindless servants." First Strike shook his head. "The reports show these creatures still have their hunting instincts. They can kill, track, and fight. Yet the humans." He paused, watching a video of a human throwing a small object, while a four-legged beast chased it. "They play with them. It's their weakness," declared Security Chief Fang, her scales bristling with excitement. "We can use this against them. Imagine the chaos when we release these beasts from their containment. They'll turn on their captors, and the station will fall into panic." A low, approving rumble spread through the bridge. First Strike raised a hand for silence, his yellow eyes narrowing as he considered the plan. The humans' strange attachment to these creatures could indeed be their undoing. "Begin the approach," he ordered. "Activate stealth shields. I want to be within striking distance before they detect us." The massive warship glided forward, its dark hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. On the screens, the space station grew larger. First Strike could see the habitat rings where the humans lived, and where they kept their beasts. "Prepare the boarding parties," he commanded. "Priority objective is to locate and release all contained creatures. Let's see how these humans handle their precious pets when the control systems are deactivated." As his crew rushed to comply, First Strike allowed himself a small smile. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen a species so foolish as to live alongside predators. Today, he would teach them the price of such weakness. Today, he would show them why his people were the true apex predators of the galaxy. "Send the message to all ships," he said, rising from his chair. "Operation Beast Liberation begins in 10 units. Let's show these humans what happens when you try to tame the untamable." Little did First Strike know, he was about to learn a lesson of his own, one that would challenge everything he thought he knew about strength, dominance, and the true nature of being an apex predator. Tom Wilson walked through the curved corridors of Space Station Hope, his boots making soft thuds against the metal floor. Beside him trotted Max, his German shepherd, wearing the official station security vest. The dog's alert ears picked up every sound, from the hum of the air recyclers to the distant chatter of station residents. "Another quiet day, buddy?" Tom asked, reaching down to scratch behind Max's ears. The dog leaned into his touch, but kept his professional demeanor. 6 years of training had made Max one of the best security assets on the station, even if some of the new staff still questioned having a dog in space. The station's main corridor opened into the central hub, a massive circular space where hundreds of people went about their daily routines. Children played in the designated recreation areas while their parents worked or shopped. Through the giant viewports, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the darkness of space. "Security Chief Wilson," a voice called from the control center. "Got a minute?" Tom turned to see Officer Pete standing at his console, frowning at his screens. Max was already moving that way, sensing his handler's change in direction. "What's wrong, Pete?" Tom asked, noting the unusual pattern of dots on the radar display. "Something weird with the long-range sensors," Pete said, pointing to a section of seemingly empty space. "We're getting ghost readings. Could be sensor glitches, but..." He tapped a few commands, and the screen zoomed in. "They're too regular to be random." Tom leaned closer, his years of experience telling him something wasn't right. Max sat at attention beside him, picking up on his tension. "How long has this been happening?" "About 20 minutes. I ran 3 diagnostic checks. The system says everything's working fine. But these patterns..." Pete shook his head. Tom straightened up and pressed his comm badge. "Wilson to Station Command. We might have a situation here." He turned to Pete. "Start running silent protocols. If something's out there trying to hide from us, let's not make it obvious we've noticed." The response from command was immediate. "Wilson, this is Captain Roberts. What are you seeing?" "Possible cloaked vessels, sir. Multiple signatures, moving in formation." Tom watched as Max's ears perked forward, the dog's trained instincts already on alert. "Request permission to begin quiet evacuation of civilian areas." There was a pause before the captain responded. "Granted. Keep it casual. Last thing we need is panic." Tom nodded to Pete, who began sending silent alerts to all security personnel. Throughout the station, off-duty officers would be quietly making their way to their posts. Meanwhile, Max had begun scanning the crowd, his training kicking in as he looked for any signs of trouble. "Come on, buddy," Tom said softly. "Let's get these people to safety." They moved through the central hub, Tom speaking quietly to various staff members. To anyone watching, it would look like routine checks. But gradually, station personnel began guiding civilians toward the secure areas, making it seem like a normal shift in station activities. Max stayed close, his presence helping keep children calm as they were led away from the viewing windows. The dog had a way of making emergency protocols feel like a game, especially to the younger residents. Then the sensors went crazy. "Multiple ships decloaking." Pete's voice rang through Tom's comm. They're huge." Tom rushed to the nearest viewport, Max at his heels. His heart nearly stopped. Where empty space had been moments before, a fleet of massive ships had appeared. Their dark hulls seemed to swallow the starlight, and their designs were like nothing he'd ever seen in any peaceful contact. "All security teams, this is not a drill," Tom spoke into his comm, keeping his voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding his system. "We have first contact scenario, possibly hostile. Execute Protocol 7 immediately." Max's low growl confirmed what Tom already knew. They were in serious trouble. As families hurried toward the shelter areas, Tom could see the alien ships growing larger in the viewport. They were moving into attack position. "Stay close, Max," he whispered to his companion. "Something tells me we're going to need each other more than ever." The space station's lights dimmed as emergency power kicked in, and in the distance, the first flashes of weapons fire lit up the darkness of space. The first explosion rocked Space Station Hope, making the floor shake beneath Tom's feet. Max stood steady, his training keeping him focused despite the chaos. Emergency lights pulsed red across the corridors as people rushed toward the safety zones. Through the station's speakers, an alien voice suddenly boomed, deep and reptilian. "Attention, human station. I am Commander First Strike of the Hunter Fleet. Your defensive capabilities are no match for our weapons. Surrender now, or face the consequences of resistance. Tom guided a group of civilians around a corner, Max helping to keep them organized. The dog's calm presence helped prevent panic, especially among the children who kept close to the familiar animal. "We have studied your weakness," the alien commander continued. "We know of the beasts you keep aboard your station. Surrender now, or we will release them from their containment. Your own pets will be your undoing." The statement was so unexpected that several people actually stopped running. Tom saw confusion replace fear on many faces. Next to him, Max tilted his head at the sound of the word pets, his ears perked forward. "Is he threatening to let our dogs and cats out?" someone asked in disbelief. Before Tom could respond, another explosion hit the station. This one was closer, and the lights flickered. Through his comm unit, he heard reports of alien boarding parties breaking through the outer defenses. "Security teams, status report." Tom called into his comm while directing people toward the inner shelters. The responses came quick and professional. Level 3, holding position. Level 5, aliens in sight. They're avoiding the kennels, sir. Level 2, they seemed confused by the pet care center. Tom couldn't help but smile grimly. The aliens had clearly made some very wrong assumptions about Earth's animals. Max's alert bark brought his attention back to their immediate situation. The sound of heavy footsteps was coming from the corridor ahead. "Everyone, quiet," Tom whispered to the group behind him. "Max guard." The German shepherd moved into position, alert but silent. Around the corner came 3 alien soldiers. They were tall, covered in dark scales, and carried weapons that glowed with strange energy. They moved like predators, but stopped short when they saw Max. "Beast," one alien hissed, raising its weapon. "It's loose already." Tom stepped forward, hands raised. "He's not loose. He's doing his job." The aliens seemed stunned by this statement. Their weapons remained raised, but their confusion was clear. Max stayed perfectly still, showing the discipline of his training. You command this predator?" the lead alien asked, its forked tongue flicking out. Before Tom could answer, Commander First Strike's voice boomed through the station again. "Attention humans, we have accessed your beast containment controls. Prepare to face your pet's true nature." Throughout the station, doors slid open. But instead of chaos, the aliens watched in bewilderment as pets calmly exited with their owners. Dogs helped guide people to safety. Cats perched on shoulders. Even the station's small animal shelter remained peaceful, its residents more interested in their dinner time than any notion of rebellion. The alien soldiers in front of Tom looked completely lost. They watched as a small girl walked past holding a guinea pig, then stared as a therapy dog led a group of elderly residents toward the shelters. "I don't understand," one alien said. "Where is the savagery? The bloodlust? These are apex predators. Some of them are descended from predators," Tom explained, patting Max's head. "But they're our friends, our helpers, our family. Max here is a highly trained security officer." As if to demonstrate, Max sat perfectly at attention. His discipline posed a stark contrast to the aliens' expectations of a wild beast. Through the comm, Tom could hear similar reports from all over the station. The aliens' grand plan to turn pets against their owners had completely backfired. Instead, they were witnessing countless examples of the deep bond between humans and animals. "Sir," Tom heard an alien soldier report through their own comm system. "The beasts. They're protecting the humans. This isn't how it was supposed to work." In that moment, Tom realized they might just survive this invasion, thanks to the aliens' biggest misconception. They had expected to find monsters in cages, but instead discovered one of humanity's greatest strengths, our capacity to form bonds of trust and love with the very creatures that the aliens could only see as threats. Commander First Strike stormed through the residential sector of Space Station Hope, his claws clicking against the metal floor. His soldiers followed behind, weapons ready but confusion clear in their movements. Every door they opened revealed another scene that challenged everything they believed. "Commander," Officer Talon reported, "we've breached the main pet care facility." First Strike rushed to see this surely dangerous facility for himself. He expected to find reinforced cages, weapon systems, and savage beasts. Instead, he found colorful walls, soft beds, and toys scattered across the floor. A small bell tinkled as they entered. "Welcome to Happy Paws Pet Daycare." A cheerful automated message played. "Please remember to sign in your furry friends." First Strike's forked tongue flicked out rapidly in confusion. This is where they train their battle beasts. A small orange creature, the humans called it a cat, walked out from behind a desk. It looked at the aliens, yawned, and started cleaning its paw. First Strike's soldiers raised their weapons. "Sir, it's displaying cleaning behavior as a threat," one soldier asked uncertainly. The cat finished cleaning, walked over to a sunny spot by the window, and curled up to sleep. The aliens watched in complete bewilderment. Meanwhile, in another part of the station, Tom and Max were helping evacuate the remaining civilians. They turned a corner and found a group of children trapped by debris from an explosion. Max immediately went into rescue mode. "Check," Tom commanded, and Max carefully investigated the debris. Finding a safe path, he helped guide the children through, his tail wagging as each one made it to safety. Back in the pet care center, First Strike was examining what he had assumed were weapon maintenance stations. They turned out to be grooming tables, complete with brushes and nail clippers. "Sir," a soldier called out, "you need to see this recording." The screen showed humans brushing dogs' fur, trimming their nails, and giving them baths. The animals appeared to be enjoying it, some even falling asleep during the process. They groomed their beasts for pleasure. First Strike couldn't believe what he was seeing. A small puppy, hiding under a desk during the invasion, crawled out and approached the aliens. Its tail wagged as it looked up at them with big eyes. "Commander, it's approaching. Should we neutralize?" a soldier asked, raising his weapon. "Hold," First Strike ordered, fascinated despite himself. The puppy sat down and tilted its head, then offered its paw, just as it had been taught. In another section, Tom and Max had reached the station's medical bay. Inside, they found the facility's therapy animals already hard at work, helping keep patients calm during the crisis. A golden retriever named Buddy lay next to an elderly patient, while a therapy cat purred on another's lap. "Good boys and girls," Tom whispered, watching these pets doing their jobs even during an invasion. Through his comm, he heard more reports that painted a picture of the aliens' growing confusion. "Sir, the target in Section 7 is asleep on a cushion. The small furry ones in Habitat 12 are eating vegetables. Commander, we found their training facility. It's full of squeaky toys." Back in the pet care center, First Strike watched as more evidence of his miscalculation emerged. Security footage showed dogs helping blind humans navigate the station, cats cuddling with children during story time, rabbits and hamsters bringing smiles to stressed workers on their lunch breaks. "These aren't weapons," he muttered. "They're companions, helpers." The puppy had settled next to him, fallen asleep against his armored boot. His soldiers watched in amazement as their fearsome commander slowly, carefully reached down toward it. Just then, his comm crackled. "Commander, the human security officer and his beast are coordinating the evacuation. But sir, the beast, it's not attacking. It's saving people. I don't understand." First Strike looked at the sleeping puppy, then at the footage of pets throughout the station continuing to help and comfort their humans even during an invasion. His species had prided themselves on being apex predators, but here was a power they had never considered, the power to turn former predators into loyal friends. "Perhaps," he said quietly, watching the puppy dream, "we have much to learn about true strength." Commander First Strike sat in the pet care center, surrounded by his increasingly bewildered soldiers. The puppy had woken up and was now playing with a squeaky toy, completely unafraid of the alien invaders. Every squeeze of the toy made the commander's soldiers jump, their weapons twitching. "Sir," Officer Talon reported, "we're receiving strange reports from all sectors. The beasts, they're not behaving as expected." First Strike watched as a cat walked across a high shelf, knocking a toy mouse to the floor. "Explain." In Medical Bay 4, a therapy dog is helping injured humans remain calm. In Section 7, a service animal is guiding a vision-impaired human to safety. And in the children's area, Talon paused, checking his datapad. Several small furry creatures called hamsters are sleeping in tiny beds. Before First Strike could respond, the station's emergency lights flashed. Through the window, he saw one of his own ships fire at the station. The blast rocked the structure, causing items to fall from shelves. The puppy, startled by the noise, ran to hide. But instead of cowering away from the aliens, it rushed to First Strike and pressed against his leg, seeking comfort. The commander froze, experiencing something entirely new, a small creature trusting him for protection. Meanwhile, Tom and Max had reached the station's command center. Through the security feeds, they watched the alien commander's interaction with the puppy. Max tilted his head, watching intently. "Sir," Pete reported, "the alien ships are still firing, but their commander, he seems distracted." Tom watched as First Strike awkwardly patted the puppy's head, copying movements he'd seen in the security footage. "He's learning," Tom said quietly. "Max, come." The German shepherd followed as Tom headed for the pet care center. In the center, First Strike was experiencing a crisis of understanding. His soldiers watched in amazement as their fearsome commander sat on the floor, letting the puppy climb into his lap. The alien leader who had conquered 12 systems was being conquered himself by a wagging tail and playful yips. "All my life," First Strike said, "I believed strength meant being feared, being the apex predator. But these creatures," he gestured around the room, where cats lounged on high perches and fish swam peacefully in tanks. "They chose to be companions instead." The door slid open. Tom stood there with Max at his side. The aliens raised their weapons, but First Strike held up a hand. "Hold," he ordered. "I want to understand." Max stayed calmly at Tom's side, showing none of the aggression the aliens had expected. The puppy scrambled from First Strike's lap and ran to sniff the bigger dog, who gently nosed the little one. "Your beast," First Strike said, standing slowly. "It could attack us. Why doesn't it?" "Because Max isn't a beast," Tom explained. "He's my partner. We trust each other. He's trained to help people, not hurt them." First Strike moved closer, studying Max with new eyes. Training, trust, partnership. He looked at his soldiers, then back at the dog. "We thought humans were weak for keeping predators as pets, but it takes more strength to make a friend than to make an enemy, doesn't it?" Just then, another blast rocked the station. First Strike's comm crackled with reports from his fleet, asking for orders to continue the attack. The commander looked at the puppy playing with Max, at the cats watching calmly from their perches, at the small animals in their habitats going about their peaceful lives. "All ships," he commanded, "cease fire immediately." His soldiers stared in shock as First Strike knelt down to Max's level. The dog looked at Tom, who nodded, and then stepped forward to gently sniff the alien commander's offered hand. "I think," First Strike said, feeling Max's warm breath on his scales, "that the hunters have much to learn about what it truly means to be strong." The puppy bounded back to him, tail wagging, as outside the windows, the alien ship's weapons powered down. The invasion that had begun with a threat about beasts was ending because of them, not through fear or violence, but through the simple power of understanding and trust. The space station's command center buzzed with activity as human and alien representatives gathered around the main conference table. Commander First Strike sat across from Captain Roberts, while Tom stood nearby with Max at his side. The puppy from the pet care center had refused to leave First Strike's side and now sat contentedly at his feet. "So," Captain Roberts said, looking at the alien commander, "you invaded our station because you thought our pets were dangerous weapons we were keeping locked up." First Strike's scales shifted color slightly, and what Tom had learned was embarrassment. "We thought we were liberating fierce predators from captivity. We expected them to turn on you the moment we freed them. Instead," Tom added, smiling as Max gently nudged the puppy with his nose, "you found out their family." The alien commander reached down to pat the puppy's head, his movements becoming more natural with practice. "In all our conquests, we've never encountered anything like this. Our species prides itself on being apex predators, but you humans—" He paused, searching for words. "You turned predators into protectors." Through the command center's windows, they could see repair crews working on the station's outer hull, accompanied by the strange sight of alien engineers helping them. The hunter ships now floated peacefully alongside the station, their weapons dark. "It's not just dogs and cats," Tom explained, taking out his tablet. "Let me show you something." He pulled up images of human history with animals. Police dogs helping solve crimes, rescue dogs finding survivors in disasters, therapy animals in hospitals, guide dogs helping the blind, cats providing comfort in nursing homes. First Strike's soldiers crowded around to see, their earlier fear of Earth's beasts replaced by fascination. Officer Talon particularly couldn't take his eyes off a video of a search and rescue dog finding a lost child. "Your people took hunters," First Strike said slowly, "and taught them to hunt for those who need help. Took protectors of territory and taught them to protect the weak." He looked down at the puppy sleeping against his boot. "Took predators and taught them to love." Captain Roberts nodded. "It's one of humanity's greatest achievements, though we rarely think about it that way. We didn't conquer these animals or break their spirits. We became friends." A small commotion at the door drew everyone's attention. A station resident's cat had wandered into the command center, apparently unimpressed by the historic first contact meeting taking place. To everyone's amusement, it walked straight to First Strike and jumped into his lap. The alien commander, who had conquered 12 star systems and commanded the most powerful fleet in his sector, found himself completely frozen as the cat made itself comfortable and started purring. What is it doing?" he asked, his voice unusually high. "She likes you," Tom explained, trying not to laugh at the mighty hunter commander being conquered by a house cat. "That's how cats show affection." First Strike carefully raised a hand and stroked the cat's fur, his eyes widening at the increased purring. "This is pleasant," he admitted. Max walked over and put his head on First Strike's knee, making the commander now surrounded by Earth's former predators turned friends. "I think," First Strike said, looking around at his amazed soldiers, "we need to completely reconsider our understanding of strength." He gently scratched behind the cat's ears, copying what he'd seen humans do. "My people have spent generations proving we're the strongest, the most fearsome. But you humans, you prove there's more power in making a friend than defeating an enemy." Captain Roberts stood up and offered his hand to First Strike. "Then let's start with friendship. Your engineers are already helping repair our station. Perhaps we can teach you about our animal companions in return." First Strike carefully shifted the cat to one arm, stood, and took the captain's hand. "I would like that. And perhaps—" he looked down at the puppy still faithfully following him. "Perhaps I could learn how to be a proper— what do you call it?" Tom smiled. "A pet owner." "Yes," First Strike said, as the cat in his arms purred and the puppy wagged its tail. "I think I would like to learn that very much." 3 months after the failed invasion of Space Station Hope, the station had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. The repair work was long finished, but the alien ships remained, now as welcome visitors rather than invaders. The station had become the center of a unique cultural exchange program between humans and hunters. Commander First Strike walked through the station's corridors, looking very different from the fearsome invader he'd been. The puppy, now named Scout, trotted happily beside him, wearing a specially made collar that accommodated his owner's alien handling. Station residents smiled and waved as they passed, used to the sight of the alien commander and his adopted dog. "Good morning, Commander," Tom called out, approaching with Max, ready for today's training session. First Strike's scales brightened in what humans had learned was a sign of happiness. Scout has been practicing the stay command. Though I must admit, he's better at teaching me patience than I am at teaching him commands. They headed to the newly expanded pet care center, which now included a cultural exchange area where hunters could learn about Earth's animals. Inside, several alien soldiers were attending a class on basic pet care, their serious faces focused intently on learning how to properly brush a cat. "I never thought I'd see this," Tom said, watching an alien warrior getting scolded by a grumpy Persian cat for brushing its fur the wrong way. "Your people have really embraced the idea." First Strike nodded, watching Scout play with other dogs. "We've already started a program to introduce pets on our home worlds. Many of my soldiers have adopted animals from Earth's shelters." He paused, his expression thoughtful. "It's changing our society in ways we never expected." Through the window, they could see a group of hunter children visiting the station, their scales bright with excitement as they learned to play fetch with some of the station's dogs. It was the first time in generations that hunter children had been allowed to show such open joy. "Our species spent so long trying to be the strongest," First Strike continued, "that we forgot how to be happy. These animals, they're teaching us how to play again, how to trust, how to care." In the corner of the room, Officer Talon was showing a group of human children how hunter scales changed color with emotions, while his adopted cat napped on his shoulder. The children's laughter mixed with the aliens' rumbling chuckles, a sound that would have been unthinkable 3 months ago. The High Council was skeptical at first. First Strike admitted, watching Scout successfully perform his stay command. They thought adopting Earth pets would make our warriors soft. Instead, it's made us stronger in ways we never knew we could be. Tom smiled as Max demonstrated proper security patrol techniques to a group of younger dogs, including Scout. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is show kindness. A small commotion at the door drew their attention. A new group of hunters had arrived at the station, looking nervous and uncertain. But their anxiety visibly melted when they saw their Supreme Commander sitting on the floor, letting Scout lick his face while Max watched with apparent approval. "Welcome to Space Station Hope," First Strike said, standing to greet them. "Your first lesson in human-animal relations begins now." He nodded to Tom, who opened a door to reveal a room full of shelter animals waiting to meet potential new owners. The new arrivals watched in amazement as cats, dogs, and other pets calmly approached them, offering friendship without fear. One small kitten walked right up to the largest alien and rubbed against his leg, purring loudly. "But we're predators," one of the new arrivals said in confusion. "Why aren't they afraid?" "Because," First Strike replied, Scout leaning happily against his leg, "they teach us that being a predator doesn't mean we can't also be a friend." He looked around the room, at humans and hunters learning from each other, at pets bringing joy to both species, at Max professionally supervising it all. After all, he added, his scales glowing with pride as Scout performed a perfect sit command. "The true measure of strength isn't in how fierce you can be, but in how gentle you choose to become." As if to emphasize his point, the kitten climbed up the startled alien's armor and fell asleep on his shoulder, purring contentedly. Around them, Space Station Hope continued its new mission, teaching two very different species how to be better through the simple, profound power of loving and being loved in return.